Immune therapy is one of the most modern and promising directions of the oncological treatment of cancer patients. For cancer to become cancer, it needs to learn how to evade immune system surveillance. So immune system cannot find it, cannot detect it, or cannot kill it. And immune therapy is directed to help the immunity to find the tumor and to kill it. And in some cancers, we get really great results. We know that our immunity is in a high extent regulated by our guts and our gut microflora or microbiome. That means that the state of our microbiome, its health, is directly associated with the strength of our immunity and our general health. How can we influence our gut bacteria? We can influence it with the food that we eat. And let's talk about what food can help to increase our immunity, to decrease inflammation, and which diet is the most effective to decrease risks of different chronic conditions, of diabetes, of cardiovascular diseases, and of cancer. My name is Dr. Igor. I'm clinical oncologist practicing since 2010. Let's get started. Food is not only the source of nutrients, but it's also the source of different antigens. Antigens are the proteins that will stimulate our immune system, and they will influence it. For example, we know there are a lot of immune structures in the gut walls, around guts, and the food that we eat, it will cause some low-grade inflammation in all our body, systemically, not only in the gut. For example, they took some healthy volunteers who were eating Western breakfast, and they saw the really high increase of interleukin-17, that is inflammatory, in their blood in 1 hour after eating Western breakfast. The same individuals, if they get some fruit juice with this breakfast, they don't have such a spike, meaning that polyphenols that are contained in this juice, they may be anti-inflammatory. In general, it's better to eat the whole fruit or vegetable instead of drinking the juice, because the juice has a lot of sugar. It will cause the spike of insulin, but it is lacking the normal natural fiber that will decrease the spikes. The other interesting investigation, they took children. Some children were following Mediterranean diet for 1 year, the others were following the Western diet, and they found out that those children who were eating Mediterranean diet, very healthy one, they got a lot of anti-inflammatory cytokine in their saliva. And the second group of children, their saliva was very inflammatory. That means we need to eat such diet that will not disturb the equilibrium between inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. What usually does the usual Western diet and junk food. Why is it important? Because prolonged inflammation, inflammatory states, systemic inflammation may lead to many diseases and is associated with many diseases. Like, for example, obesity. We know in obese people there is increased risk of, for example, cardiovascular diseases, increased risk of cancer, and they have always systemic low-grade inflammation. Then, next, cardiovascular diseases, and also some other diseases like, for example, tumors. We know that in elderly, the immunity will decrease with age, and it's a natural process. And also they can have some malnutrition, and this will even exacerbate this condition. That's why elderly are at increased risk of some diseases, infections, and cancers. For example, they often have zinc deficiency, and we know that supplementation with zinc may improve the immunity and the protection against respiratory infections. Also, red grape polyphenols may help with their immunity and increase their T lymphocyte function. Also, probiotics and prebiotics may help to restore their impaired immunity. So, what should we eat? If somebody thinks that, okay, I have a diabetes, or I have this or that, or cardiovascular disease, and okay, I will eat some healthy diet for 1 week and it will go away. No, he's wrong, because the chronic diseases are developing for many years. That's why if you want to get the effect of diet, you need to be very consistent and you need to follow it for a long time. And first diet is Mediterranean diet. It's a style of eating, not just a diet. And this is the types of food that the people living in Mediterranean countries are eating. These people are in much lower risks of obesity, of cardiovascular diseases, of diabetes, of cancer. This diet has not very high amounts of animal fat, but they have high amounts of seafood and olive oil, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and meta-analysis of 12 or large prospective investigations when the patients following Mediterranean diet were observed for up to 18 years, and it was almost 1.5 million of participants. They found that there is decreased mortality from cardiovascular diseases, from cancer, from Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diseases. By the way, the high intake of carbohydrates is associated with increased risk of different diseases like cardiovascular or cancer. And the intake of more fatty food is healthy and is associated with decreased risks of these diseases. By the way, raw fruits, vegetables and legumes are quite healthy, and they may also decrease the risks of above mentioned diseases. But if you like to drink soda, to eat different cakes and eat sugar, then of course it increases all these risks. Also, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, and for example, supplementation of omega-3 and arginine really improves their immune function in cancer patients and may decrease risks of infections, for example. The other meta-analysis of almost 1.2 million of subjects, its observational studies, showed that people who are adherent to Mediterranean diet are in decreased risk of many cancers like breast, prostate, colon, lung cancer, gastric, liver, and others. Also, high intake of olive oil is associated with low risk of breast or colon cancer. It has a lot of omega-3, and omega-3, as opposed to omega-6, is anti-inflammatory. The next diet is vegetarian diet. These people eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, legumes. Their diet is rich in antioxidants, in polyphenols, and theoretically they may never get any cancer. But meta-analysis on almost 700,000 subjects showed that there is no decreased risk in vegetarians to develop cancer. And by the way, strict vegans, they are at increased risk of developing B12 deficiency, zinc deficiency, iron deficiency. That is definitely not very healthy. But there was other meta-analysis of 86 observational studies. It showed that there is overall decrease in cancer risks by 8%, but it did not decrease the risk of colon, breast, lung or prostate cancer. So information is quite conflicting in the topic of vegetarian diet. Japanese diet is one of the healthiest diets in the world, and we know that in Japan the life expectancy is quite long. They drink a lot of green tea, they eat a lot of seafood, different seaweed. Their diet is rich in omega-3, which is against the cancer. Also, they eat a lot of tofu, the soybean product, and the soybean in preclinical studies showed that it has some anti-cancer activity. And in general, the adherence to Japanese diet decreases the risk of many chronic conditions, including cancer. Next, very low calorie and ketogenic diet. They must lead to low insulin and glucose levels and insulin-like growth factor 1 levels that are pro-cancerous, that will increase their growth and development of the cells and also tumors. And theoretically, it should stop and decrease the risks of cancer. We don't really know about the incidence of cancer in the people following this kind of diets. But we know when the person already has cancer, this diet, the intermittent fasting or the ketogenic diet, they may help to decrease their side effects of chemotherapy or radiation therapy. But we need more real clinical trials to see how we can use it in cancer patients. Dear friends, you know how much our gut bacteria is important for our health, and it's very important to keep the equilibrium between anti-inflammatory and inflammatory states in our body. The healthiest diet for today is Mediterranean diet. It's considered to be Mediterranean diet, and in general, we need to eat enough fatty food, enough legumes, fruits, vegetables, and omega-3, and enough vitamins, because, for example, vitamin A, D, omega-3, and fiber, they will increase the anti-inflammatory substances. So if you are not following any healthy diet, please consider starting it already today or maybe tomorrow, because we need to think about health beforehand. And don't forget about physical activity. I wish you good health, good luck, God bless you, bye bye.